Anyone who has ever had to measure every word around a powerful person knows this question. How long can you stay quiet before you finally get to decide? In 572, an emperor invited a regent who had held power for 12 years into the palace for a reading session. His name was Yuwen Yong. The book was the Wine Proclamation. The real subject was power. Halfway through, Yuwen Yong struck. His brother emerged from hiding, and the regent was killed. Why did a teenage emperor wait 12 years to move? Was patience his weapon, or the price of survival? Every person who has learned to speak carefully around power understands the next question. Could you have endured it? Yuwen Yong became emperor at 17, but the real power in Northern Zhou belonged to Yuwen Hu. Yuwen Hu was not an ordinary minister. He controlled the court and had already removed emperors before Yuwen Yong. That meant Yuwen Yong could sit on the throne and still be unable to show his real intentions. He had to look harmless, obedient, and politically empty. His silence was not ordinary modesty. It was a survival position inside the palace. The first problem with pretending to be weak is that other people may eventually believe the role. You can see the same human tension in ordinary life. You stay quiet around a powerful relative, even when you have a clear opinion, and everyone slowly decides that you have none. You let louder people speak first, waiting for the moment when your answer will matter, until their image of you becomes fixed. Or you hide your sharpness for years to protect a goal, then discover that the people around you only recognize the smaller version of you. Yuwen Yong's 12 years began inside that trap. He was not simply waiting in one dark room for a perfect day. He had to keep the court functioning while making sure that his own competence did not look like a threat. That meant choosing battles that did not immediately challenge Yuwen Hu's military authority. A canal, a tax decision, a personnel arrangement, or a local petition could look small beside a regent's army. But small decisions were where a ruler could quietly build a record of competence. Yuwen Yong needed the state to become stronger without making the man who controlled it feel personally challenged. That is a very different kind of courage from standing up and shouting. It requires a person to know that the most satisfying move may be the most dangerous one. For 12 years, Yuwen Yong had to prefer the move that preserved tomorrow over the move that proved a point today. That choice can look cowardly from the outside because its success is invisible. No one applauds a crisis that does not happen. No one sees the trap that was avoided or the sentence that was deliberately swallowed. But when the chance finally arrives, all those invisible choices become part of the strike. This is why the phrase, "he played dumb," is not enough. He was managing what the most powerful person in the room was allowed to believe about him. Every successful act of concealment made the later reveal more powerful, but also made the years before it more expensive. That is the first ledger of Yuwen Yong's story. Survival bought time, and time demanded a version of himself. A ruler in that position could not simply ask to be understood. He had to make his usefulness visible while keeping his ambition invisible. That balance explains why the waiting was active, not empty. He was not waiting for fate to rescue him. He was waiting for the other side to misread him at the right moment. Yuwen Yong did not challenge Yuwen Hu in public every time he was pushed aside. He did not reveal every plan, and he did not rush to prove that he was stronger than he looked. Instead, he worked through affairs that Yuwen Hu considered less threatening. He allowed the regent to believe that the young emperor was manageable. That is why calling the story "A Clever Emperor Playing Dumb" is too easy. The act was not a single performance. It was a 12-year environment. Every quiet answer made the next quiet answer more believable. Every hidden plan protected him, but also strengthened the image that he had no plan at all. So the question is not only whether he was patient, the question is whether a person can keep using a mask without allowing the mask to become his face. For Yuwen Yong, the answer had to come in a room where Yuwen Hu felt safe. In 572, Yuwen Hu returned to Chang'an from Tongzhou. Yuwen Yong did not summon him for an open political confrontation. He invited Yuwen Hu to visit the Empress Dowager and read the Wine Proclamation to her. The setting looked ceremonial, almost domestic. That was exactly why it worked. The historical record describes a coordinated attack. Yuwen Yong struck first, the eunuch He Quan failed to finish the killing, and Yuwen Yong's brother Yuwen Ji completed it. The regent who had dominated Northern Zhou for 12 years was dead. Yuwen Yong finally became the actual ruler. But this was not a sudden miracle. The trap worked. because 12 years had taught Yuwen Hu to see the emperor as less dangerous than he really was. The strike was brief. The preparation was the real story. Was Yuwen Yong wise to wait, or had he already paid too much for the chance? After taking power, Yuwen Yong did not stop at the death of Yuwen Hu. He reorganized the Northern Zhou court, strengthened the state, and later conquered Northern Qi. That matters because it tells us what the 12 years were for. He was not only waiting for revenge, he was waiting until he could take power and hold it. Still, the cost did not disappear. He had spent 12 years letting other people underestimate him, and that meant living inside an identity built by someone else. When you hide your ability long enough, you may win the moment and still lose part of the person who wanted to win. Yuwen Yong died young, before he could complete the unification that seemed within reach. He got the power he had waited for, but time did not promise him a long enough future. The years after 572 show why the earlier waiting cannot be reduced to a single revenge scene. Once the regent was gone, Yuwen Yong had to turn a private victory into public capacity. He had to command officials who had watched him remain silent and soldiers who had served under a different center of power. A successful plot could remove one man. It could not automatically make every institution obey the emperor. That is why the aftermath matters as much as the palace trap. Yuwen Yong reorganized power, strengthened the state, and prepared for the campaigns that followed. When Northern Zhou later conquered Northern Qi, the result was not the product of one brilliant afternoon. It rested on a ruler who had spent years converting concealment into preparation. He proved that he could wait. He also had to prove that he had not become only the person who waited. The hidden years therefore carried two opposite meanings. They protected his future and narrowed his present. That is why his victory feels powerful and painful at the same time. So was 12 years of pretending worth it? If you look only at the result, Yuwen Yong's patience was brilliant. If you put yourself back inside those 12 years, every silence may have lowered him in someone else's eyes and in his own. Patience can protect you. It can also let other people define you. You do not have to explain every silence as failure. But when you finally regain the right to decide, do not leave the smaller version of yourself behind. Was Yuwen Yong's 12-year wait wisdom or cost? Tell me where you stand. Next, we follow Yu Qian, the man who saved a dynasty, then was killed by that dynasty.
If you want to know more history buried by time, follow Xing Shi.